Hey there, welcome to the Impatient Entrepreneur Podcast, a show where we hear from entrepreneurs and business owners who are chomping at the bit to make their mark on the world. I'm your host, Lauren Quidar-Cockrell. Now, let's hurry up and get to the good stuff. Hey everyone, welcome back. We have a really cool conversation today. I personally am looking forward to everything that's going to transpire over the next 30 minutes or so. Book people are my absolute favorite people, and we have really, I wish you could see the video of this, lots of fist bumps over here. We have Nick Hutchison here with us today from Book Thinkers. Nick, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Lauren, I am excited to be speaking with a fellow book nerd, a fan of books. And so I'm the founder of a company called Book Thinkers. It's a digital marketing agency for nonfiction authors. So we help these authors promote and market their books. I also host a podcast where I've interviewed about 150 of my favorite authors, doing a deep dive on their books. And my very first book, Rise of the Reader, is launching November 1st. And this book is all about strategies for mastering your reading habits and applying what you learn. So you'll find that action is kind of my middle name. I think that if we're reading all of these great personal development books and failing to take action on them, then there's a big opportunity cost to that. And so I'm kind of here to solve that problem.
I love that. I actually was just in my entrepreneur cohort this morning, and there was a lot of I guess belly aching is the right word about, I don't have time to read, or what do I do after I read this, and how many times do I have to read it? And so, kudos to you. That's very exciting.
Yeah, well, let's nerd out, because those are all the problems that I've set out to solve.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit later in the show. But the most important question for the moment is, would you say that you're an impatient entrepreneur?
Absolutely. But I'll say this, I was more impatient 5 or 6 years ago than I am today. I still feel a little bit of that, let's go, come on, move. But yeah, I've definitely been able to improve that. My mom used to always say, Nick, patience is a virtue. And so I've tried to instill a little bit more of it into my life.
To that I say, patience is a virtue I can't wait to have.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
How long have you had your company?
I started Book Thinkers as a recent college graduate back in 2017. And so, I suppose it's been about, 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
And, I had a little bit of blissful ignorance, you could say, when I first started, like, let me go make $1 million in the first couple of months. And it obviously did not happen that way. It doesn't happen that way for most entrepreneurs. And in fact, one of my favorite business books, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, he says that 95% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. And most of the time, that's because they run out of money. They go too big, too fast, and they try to make it all happen at once. So I think sometimes that impatience can end up shutting down a business that, if it had a little bit more patience, probably could have survived. But, I'm always managing, sort of, as Gary Vee would say, the clouds in the dirt. From a macro level, you want to be patient, but on a micro level, you want to hustle every single day. So it's always this balancing act, and I'm always on one side or the other, probably too much.
Yeah, it is, with age comes some patience, I think, too. And, going through all the paces as your business evolves. Has your business changed a lot since you started it, or is it kind of just glowed up as you've grown up, or how's it kind of changed?
Oh, it's completely different than anything that I had originally anticipated. So when I started my business, I knew that I wanted to serve the personal development community. And at first I thought I would serve readers, helping them organize takeaways from their books, take better action. And in fact, we set out to build a mobile application originally that never came to fruition. We spent tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours of our time as recent college graduates, like, let's go build this tech company. It didn't happen. So as I mentioned in the intro, today we have a digital marketing agency that supports authors from behind the scenes. And most of our money comes from that side of the spectrum, not the readers, but the authors. And so, it's wildly different. And so today we have 10 people on my team. We support hundreds of authors a year. And I'm very happy, though, because at the end of the day, whether I'm promoting a book through my community or I'm helping an author amplify their message through effective marketing and social media strategies, the outcome is the same. The right book ends up in the right hands at the right time. Somebody uses that book to make a change and their lives are better. And so I really do believe in the power of these personal development books.
Absolutely. Love those. Have read quite a few in my day. And do you work hand in hand with like the publisher, or I've heard that in the publishing industry that marketing mix has definitely shifted. It's not quite the heyday of, putting every single author gets a huge budget and all that stuff. So how does that look like today?
Yeah, my business grew up really by receiving referrals from publishers. So most traditional publishers, they're great at getting a good product finished. They're not great at marketing that book. And sometimes these big publishers, they act like a VC. So they'll bet on 20 books in the beginning. One will take off, it will pay for the other 19, and they'll kind of ditch those. And so we'd pick up the pieces for those other 19 and continue to help them promote and market their books. As things have continued to grow and change, I would say now about 50% of the authors that we serve are self-published. And so I believe book marketing is a team sport. You can't do it all yourself. It's not the best written books. It's the best selling books that we hear about. And so you need people on your team to help you promote and sell these books. And so, yeah, self-published authors that own their IP, that use their book as a business card for some type of higher ticket complimentary product or service like coaching, consulting, speaking on stages, things like that. That's primarily who we're serving on the self-publishing side of things. And then, yeah, we definitely still work with some publishers and some hybrid publishers to help their authors as well.
Cool. So you have obviously quite a few books at your disposal. What are you reading or listening to right now?
I just started listening to $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi. Yes. Alex is he's a fantastic author, creator, entrepreneur. We just had him on our podcast a few months ago. And so, yeah, I'm currently working my way through that.
Okay, that's in the queue. I'm very excited. I saw it's coming out, and got all the emails about the launch, so it was fun to watch too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. What are you? So you have a book coming out. Let's talk about that. What's it about? Oh, you already told us a little bit about what's about, but what do we need to know about this book that's coming?
Yeah, so here's the backstory. Over the years, I've developed this community. We have about 150,000 nonfiction book lovers on Instagram and about 50,000 on our other platforms. And we love to answer questions and sort of create engagement and stuff like that. And so one of the things that people have told us over time is they appreciate the book recommendations, but just like we were talking about before, how the heck do we translate that information into action and results? Some people can do that effectively. Most people can't. We're not taught how to implement books. And so each time I'd receive a question like that, of course, I'm going to answer them. I'd send a voice note, maybe type something out via email, jump on a quick Zoom call. But I always felt like I was underserving that person that I was really trying to help. I think for two reasons. Number one, the medium with which I was trying to answer that person didn't lend itself for long form content. And then number two, I had never really taken the time to articulate my own process, define it, put it into action steps so that other people could follow along. And so I was implementing all of these books, building my dream business, living my life, happy, healthy, wealthy, but I wasn't really communicating how I was doing that very well. So I decided to sort of take a step back, observe my own behavior from a third-party perspective, and really analyze what was I doing to turn that information into results? Like what steps are most people missing? And so that's the result, this book, Rise of the Reader. And in that book, I talk about all types of fun reading strategies, everything from how to schedule a reading time into your calendar and value these books, setting an intention for each book that you read so you can get more out of it, effective reading and note-taking strategies, retention strategies, implementation strategies, accountability strategies. And so all of it's kind of packed into that book so that people get more out of the next book they read and the next book that they read instead of having it kind of go in one ear and out the other.
Sounds kind of a meta experience. It's like you're reading it with the tools and then hopefully using the tools that you're learning as you're reading it.
Yes, it is a little bit meta, a book about books, but I'm hoping that, for the right person, like for me, who started his journey about 10 years ago and has read 500 books since then, like those first couple of hundred books I read, there's an opportunity cost to reading them inefficiently without the strategies that I've developed and used today. So I got less out of them than I could have,
Sure. Who'd be kind of an ideal reader of your book?
I think a motivated young professional, somebody who recognizes the difference between where they are and where they could be, and they're already starting to read this type of personal development material or listen to a podcast like yours, they want to close that gap. They want to minimize regret and they want to live up to their potential. And so if they're already in this world, I think that they're my type of person and they could really get a lot out of this book.
Yeah. What are some of the most transformative books you've read for your journey?
Well, we talked a little bit about Alex Hormozi. Last year, I read his book, $100 Million Offers. And this is a great example of ROI. I'm a small business owner who decided to read $100 Million Offers and apply it to my business. Going through the exercises in that book, I developed a new service and I wanted to test it out. It was about 10 times bigger than my average deal size at the time. And I started to offer that and it worked. It was valuable. It was the short form video content service that we offer. And so it added an additional 6 figures of revenue, service-based revenue to my business in the second half of last year, which is an amazing amount of money for a small business owner. And it's allowed us to grow so much more throughout this year and since then. So when I think about return on investment, a $20 book and a few hours of my time led to over $100,000 of additional revenue. Like it doesn't get better than that, right?
It's a good testimonial for Alex.
Yeah, it is. And that's exactly how it happened. And I was reminded by somebody on my team who sort of implemented it with me. He's like, hey, when you tell that story, remind everybody that you didn't even give the book your full effort. You found one thing and ran with it. Like there was more there that you didn't implement. So it was sort of a partial implementation too.
Love it. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. But I read books on philosophy, psychology. I read books on health, fitness, and nutrition. I read books on all sorts of other subjects as well. So I think business is just kind of a small subcategory of the books I'm reading. But if I'm reading a book on sales or marketing, books on effective communication, negotiation, persuasion, sales, whatever. Those books are easy to quantify. And I think some of the other things, they're a little bit more difficult to quantify, but they're still worth reading.
So what are you impatient about right now?
What am I impatient about? The release of this book. I've put 3 years into writing this book, to improving this book. I realized I could never make it perfect. Done is better than perfect. So I would say maybe it's 80% of my best effort. But once I committed to a date, November 1st, ever since I committed to that date, I've been impatient. I want it out. In fact, today, the day that we're recording this, I'm supposed to receive my first print proof, right? So an author gets a print proof normally about a month before their book comes out. So I can't wait to feel it, to hold it. And just to hear how it positively impacts the people that choose to read it. I mean, I really believe that these books, they condense decades of somebody else's lived experience into days of reading, and you can overcome obstacles, you can develop skills if you choose to take action on them. One of my favorite quotes that I've been caught repeating recently is that action is the real measure of intelligence. It's a Napoleon Hill quote. And I think that we need to take better action. And I just that's what I'm impatient about. Like I can't wait for this new product to be available within the business.
That's exciting. Well, congratulations on receiving this baby that's in the mail. I'm sure that's going to be such a really cool moment that you'll never forget. No matter how many books you write, you'll always remember that time you hold this first one in your hands.
Yes,
I'm sure that's going to be really special. So have you always been a reader? Is this did this happen later in life?
No, I was not always a reader. In fact, I never picked up a personal development style book until I was 21. So growing up, I was more of the athlete stereotype, not much of the academic. And I didn't really enjoy my high school or college experience as far as the classroom is concerned. And so, no, I wasn't much of a reader, but I took an internship going into my sophomore year of college at a local software company. It was a sales internship. And my boss at the time, Kyle, he knew that I had about an hour commute to and from the office every day that summer. And so he recommended personal development podcasts. The way that I tell it today, I don't know if it's 100% how it happened, but he said something like, Nick, listening to the same playlist for the 1000th time is not going to get you closer to where you want to be in life, but the right business podcast might. So check out some of these shows. And And as I started commuting and listening and crushing these podcasts, I realized that so many of the people I wanted to be like, they were giving some credit for their success to the books that they were reading. And I realized one day that if I chose not to read these books that all of the people were recommending, then I was choosing to live under my potential. So no, I was not always a reader. And if anybody's listening today and they're like, I'm not much of a reader either, maybe that story gives a little bit of inspiration and that, because these books have literally changed every area of my life.
And you mentioned you're listening to $1 Million Leads. Are you more of an auditory learner then versus visual?
No, definitely not. I consume about 100 books a year, and I would say 70 of them are probably physical paper books, and then maybe 30 of them are audiobooks. I started listening to Alex's book because it was available before the paperback. And that's why I jumped into it. But I do end up reading and listening to about 2 books a week. And so,
gotcha.
From a science perspective, about 80% of the inputs to our brain are visual. And only, the rest of the senses only make up about 20% of the input to our brain. So right off the bat, physical paper books, absolutely my favorite way to consume information. And if anything, reading a physical paper book while listening to it at the same time to keep yourself on pace, that's probably the best way to double up and get that auditory and the visual at the same time.
Ooh, yeah, that'll get you good. That takes some patience, though.
It does, yeah, it does.
It's like I don't know if my ears and eyes would process at the same speed necessarily. That's interesting. I'll have to try that.
Yeah,
sometime.
you'll have to try
it out. So switching gears a little bit, on the business side, has anything happened in your business, in your company, to you that at the moment you felt, man, this is just the worst thing that could happen? Like the rug has been pulled out from under me. I don't know how I'm going to recover. But then fast forwarding to now, it's turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened.
Yeah. I mean, that's happened to me more times than I can count in such a short period of time. I mean, that initial experience of investing tens of thousands of dollars as a recent college graduate to try to build a mobile app that never came to fruition. I mean, that was crushing. That was all of the money that I was earning. I was pouring into this passion of mine that never really came to fruition. And so I think that, but I mean, again, without that, like you're talking about, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have the business that serves the people that it does today. And so I'm infinitely happier, I think, with what's happened. And I love to read about Stoicism. It's sort of an ancient philosophy, started in ancient Greece, moved to Italy, and it's kind of trickled its way into modern society with Ryan Holiday and some of these other modern day Stoic writers. And, one of the concepts that Ryan Holiday writes about is that obstacles are opportunities. And I really believe that. I think that through difficult situations, you can find opportunity, especially if you're programmed to realize that in entrepreneurship, failure is just part of the process, and that failure is actually a good thing. The more often you can fail, the more feedback you'll get, the more often you can iterate and grow and change and expand. And yeah, it's been such a beautiful difference because yes, it was crushing. And now I don't seek failure, but like I definitely run full speed, and that's a result of it.
Right. And it's the difference between cowering from it either before it happens or when it happens versus kind of greeting it head on, be like, okay, well, what lessons you got for me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also, the other thing that popped into my mind when you asked me that question was I had some business partnerships that didn't work out. And I think each and every time one of those business partnerships didn't work out, I took that personally. And I would think, oh, they don't believe in me. They don't trust in me as the leader of this business. They don't believe in the concept of book thinkers. And, but I'll go show them type of thing, chip on my shoulder. But, I think in hindsight, what I've realized is that I do enjoy being in control of this business world that I've created. And that, through those failed relationships, I've learned better ways to communicate with other people and, to take on different perspectives and be less emotionally reactive and more logical. And so all of those things come from experience as well.
Yeah. What is your role in the business look like today? Are you involved in the work product itself, or are you more, strategy and subject matter expertise and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the only set of I've retained two sets of responsibilities, and I've sort of
Hmm.
automated, delegated, or eliminated everything else. Um,
Yeah.
so today, I still read books and review them for our social media community. So that's a paid
Hmm.
service that we have, and it's something that I choose to execute. The other
Hmm.
services that we offer are covered by my team, and then I still
Hmm.
love to sell. And
Hmm.
when I say sell, I really mean network, invite people to
Yeah.
conversations. I mean, we have some appointment setters on our team, but invite people to
Hmm.
conversations and then just get to learn a little bit more about their books and their business and, if we might be a good
Hmm.
fit for them. And I love going to conferences and networking. And so that's
Hmm.
a set of responsibilities that I've retained because I really enjoy it and it brings me
Hmm.
energy. Everything that
Yeah.
took energy away from me, I intentionally removed it out of
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
responsibility set.
As you should. Good for you.
Yeah.
And where do you see Book Thinkers and the brand in 5 years or so? What's the vision?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I don't have a good answer, and maybe my answer will be
Hmm.
a little bit different. If you've asked that of a couple people on the show before, I envision a future that's just a bigger version of what exists today.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
love the present moment. I enjoy the passage of time. This is the business that makes me happy. And so if we could do
Hmm.
that at a bigger scale and have a bigger impact, that's great. But I
Hmm.
don't envision a future that's very different from my
Hmm.
present moment.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's great. And then, when you were younger, was there something about you that people told you, like, this is deficient or this is a weakness, but really it's ultimately become your superpower and made you really great at what you do?
Hmm. Yes. When I was younger, especially in sports, I was told I was too competitive. And sometimes that competition, that desire for competition would represent itself at the expense of the people around me. I grew up as the
Hmm.
oldest of four boys, and I could turn anything
Oh.
into a competition, whether it was like watching TV or, a pillow fight or building a fort or, playing in the woods. Like I would make everything a competition. And I think that that combined with a little bit of a rebellious nature in general kind of together has
Hmm.
been a good formula for carving a new path and building a business and doing things outside of society's box. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily subscribe to the traditional idea of a 9 to 5 and delaying
Hmm.
gratification until later in life and then realizing that you wish you did more things earlier in life and you regret it
Hmm.
all. Like
Hmm.
I definitely think that that rebellious nature, maybe plus the desire for competition, has served me well.
Nice, nice. What do you have any advice for our listeners about something that they can do right now to make their lives or businesses better and stronger?
Yes, I'll give an example for books. So, this is an
Hmm.
example from my book, Rise of the Reader. I do believe that the right business book or the right book personally can change your life. And so, one of the things that I realized early on is most people don't read with intention. So, I'd meet somebody at a conference or through social media and I'd say, "Hey, what are you reading?" And they'd tell me. And I'd say, "Why?"
Hmm.
And they'd be like, "What do you mean, why?" And so, when I read a book, I define a goal for each book. I set an intention. So, we'll talk about $100 million
Hmm.
leads. Instead of
Hmm.
just listening to that book, hoping that it will provide something that will change my life, I'm going to set a smart goal, a smart intention for the
Hmm.
book. And
Hmm.
it will be specific, measurable,
Hmm.
attainable, relevant to my business, and time bound. I'll put a deadline on it.
Hmm.
So, that intention for $100 million leads is find and implement at least two strategies for lead generation by the end of September.
Hmm.
That checks every
Hmm.
box. It's specific, it's measurable. I know whether or not the book served its purpose. It's attainable. I didn't say make $100 million by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Just find and implement two things. It's relevant to
Yeah.
my business because lead generation is something that we've sort of suffered with and we're not great at.
Hmm.
And then it's time
Hmm.
bound. I said by the end of the month, so I can get it done within a specific period of time. And I'll know whether or not that book has served its purpose by the time I'm done
Hmm.
reading it. I think the same thing when you attend a conference, like a business conference. What's your intention for the conference? Why are you there? Can you quantify the
Hmm.
result? Did it achieve what it was supposed to achieve? Far too many times I'll bump into somebody at a personal development conference after I get off stage or something, and I say, "Hey, what can I help you with?" And they won't have an answer. And I'm like, "Well, why are you here?
Yeah.
Spent this time and this money. Like, you should know what I can help you with, you know?" So
Right.
same thing with these books. You should know why they're supposed to be here, why they're supposed to help you. Are you eliminating a pain? Are you developing a skill set? What is this book supposed to do for you? And in a physical paper book, I'll write that intention on the inside cover and I'll review it every time I read a few more pages so that my brain can filter for an opportunity to fulfill that goal. If I'm reading an audiobook, maybe I'll write it in the notes section on my phone or on a sticky note or something, or on a notebook, depending on where I'm listening to it. And again, then my brain can filter for, oh wait, hey, this is something that Alex is saying in the book that I can implement. Let me write it down real quick. So that's a tip that I have. Hopefully that helps people get more from the books they're reading.
I love it. I think just naturally I have some sort of intention, but to be intentional about your intention.
Yes.
Being thoughtful about it and more action oriented versus receiving information that, may go in one ear out the other. I consume a lot of books as well, but it's kind of it's consumption. It's Zoom, it's gone. And then, okay, did I read that book? I think so.
Yes.
So I love that. That's great advice. Okay. So wrapping up, where can people find you, do business with you, buy your book? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do is play this book matchmaker role. And so if anybody in your audience wants a custom book recommendation from me, just DM me at Book Thinkers, spelled just like it sounds. Maybe you could throw it in the show notes. Book Thinkers on Instagram. Tell me about a problem you have. Tell me about a skill set that you want to develop or something in between. And I might ask some follow-up questions, but I'll make a recommendation and I'll even try to follow up with you in a few months to see if you've read it. So from there, you can check out all the links in our bio. And if you're an author that wants to work with us, same thing. And yeah, all the goods are right there on IG.
Okay. They can check out, I'm assuming the book will be everywhere.
It will.
You'll promote it as you promote your other clients' books, I assume.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll be a good case study.
Yes. Well, congratulations on your book, baby. Due November 1st. Very exciting. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Impatient Entrepreneur. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague or give us a 5-star review on Apple. You can also chat with us on Instagram or Facebook at The Impatient Entrepreneur Pod. Want to star on a future episode? Head over to theimpatiententrepreneur.com to inquire. Thank you to the team at Quidar & Co. for believing in me and bringing this podcast to life. And thank you to Carson Childers for mixing and editing this episode. Can't wait to see you next time.